Boom. Alright. Okay. That was the door. Alright. We are gewaldig. So I think nobody is home. So quick, let's try to quickly record this stuff while everybody's out. What are we up to? Oh, really? This? Wow. Alright. Look, friends, this is how it goes. First part of the daf is like really technical. Tuma and Tara. Do I need to say more? And then, but then we get to a really interesting sugya. You got to use your brain a little bit. I hope I'll be able to focus, because if I can't, that would be less than ideal. Alright, let's do it. Okay, so let's just get the Tuma and Tara out of the way. What do you want me to tell you? Also, I had to review this in the car. I keep on having to go places. Alright, well, sometimes you have to go places. Alright, well, friends, hopefully we're all going places. Alright, Tesvav Omud Beis, so boy Ilpe. So Ilpe asked Akasha. Tesvav Omud Beis, about 10 lines from the bottom. Boy Ilpe asked Akasha. Yadayim Tahorus Lachatzoyin, O Ein Tahorus Lachatzoyin. Are hands pure to halves? Or are they not pure to halves? Heichidami. What in the world? If you could say, well, what it means is that you have one revius of water and you need it to serve two people, to work for two people. So that's what it means for it. Like each one's getting half of the revius. But that can't be the question, because that's a Beferish Mishnah. We learned this in Masechta Nazir or something. Come on, where was this? Hey, Yadayim? No, we didn't learn Yadayim. But I thought it was like a Nazir or something. We had it relatively recently, I think. Oh wait, did I? Oh yeah, that's why I was looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, Nazir. Taflam Ches. Okay, so again, so by Ilpa Yadayim Torus L'Chatzon U'Ein Torus L'Chatzon Hechidam Ilim D'Kol Mashu Beitrei Mervius V'Hotnan. We learned in a Mishnah Mervius Notn L'Yadayim L'Echad V'Afilu L'Shnayim, that if you have a revius of water, so you could wash your hands with the revius of water for one person or for two people. That's what? That's for, I guess, like to eat truma or something. Okay. Ve'el D'Kol Mashi Chada Yada. Wait, what? Chada yade. Rather means if he washes, the two hands separately. First he washes his one hand, and then later he washes the second hand. So like only one of two hands at each time, right? Half of his two hands at each time. You can do that. There's no problem. If you wash one of your hands by pouring water on it, and then the other hand, if you wash one hand by pouring water on it, and the other hand by sticking it in a mikveh, so Tahorus, that's okay. Well, what he does is he washes half of his hand at a time. So, you have a whole hand, and first you wash half of your whole hand, and then you wash the other half of your whole hand. But that can't be the case, because again, we see Rabbi Yana already says that you can't do that. You can't wash half of your hand, dry it, and then wash the other half of your hand. Well, what if he doesn't dry it in between? What if he washes half of his hand, and then he washes the other half of the hand, but there's still a shtickle water from the first half of the hand? So it's not like two separate things. It's like ki'ilu, I don't know, that's what we want to know. Is it ki'ilu like you washed your hand all at once because the water from the first half is still there? Or do we say, no, you can't do two halves, even if there's a little bit of water from the first half? No. So that's the kasha, right? So dika mashka tofeach, b'chiyika mashka tofeach mehave. But still, the Gemara is not impressed. It says, so what? That there's still some leftover water from the first half. We learn in the Mishnah, hanitzok v'akatapris, that we've seen this before, that if you pour water, right? So let's say you have water. Oh, excuse me. This stuff is so interesting. So if you have water, let's say in a tea kettle, and that water is tahor, and you're pouring water from the tea kettle into some other kli that is tameh. So technically speaking, the stream of water from the tea kettle into this other kli is connecting the tahor water in the tahor kli with the tamei kli. So technically, shouldn't maybe the tamei kli be matame the water in the tea kettle because it's all connected? Vakatapres, or if you have imagine like a mountain and you have water flowing down the mountain, so it's all like one stream of water. So would that connect like the top, like what's on the mountain with what's below, if like one of them is tahor and one of them is tamei? So umashke tofeach, as well as if there's like residual moisture, like such as over here, if you wash half of your hand and there's still water left over from the first half, can it connect to the second half? Einu chibur. So we say no, nisht. It's not a chibur. Does not make a connection. Lo l'tumah v'lo l'tayra, not to be matami, not to be matayra, right? Not to say that like, so not l'tumah, right? Like an example that I gave earlier, which is like the tea kettle, for example, the bottom kli won't be matami, the content of the tea kettle, but also as Rashi points out, l'tayra, right? If you have like two bodies of water that are less than 40 sa, but there's like some water connecting them, that doesn't make it 40 sa. They're still going to be considered separate zachin, separate things. So, okay. Fine. So again, so we see that having this residual water doesn't seem to make a difference. So well, it's not just any moisture. It's moisture that's so moist that if that moisture gets on something else, that other thing would still be able to moisturize another thing. There's that much moisture. That's how much moisture we're talking about. But that also we have in the Mishnah. Tofeach le'atpiach chibur. That if it's so moist that it can moisten something else, that could then go on to moisten something else, that would be considered a chibur. Well, dilma le'inyon mikvos. Yeah, but here's the kasha. Maybe tofeach amanat le'atpiach being a chibur is only by halachas of mikvah. Rabbi Yehuda, and it's like Rabbi Yehuda the Tanan, we learn in the Mishnah, mikveh sheyesh ba arbaim soya. If you have a mikveh that has punkt 40 sa mechuvanos, no more, no less, b'diuk 40 sa, v'yadu shnaim v'tavlu, and then two people go to the mikveh. The first guy goes, and then the second guy goes. Baze acharze, right? The first guy goes to the mikveh, comes out, then the second guy goes into the mikveh. So now rishon tar v'asheni tameh. The first guy is tar, but the second guy is tameh, because when the first guy went in, he got wet, and when he comes out, he takes some of that wetness with him, which means that memele, if it was punkt 40 sa, it's no longer punkt 40 sa, it's going to be less than that, because the first guy who went in took some of the water with him when he went out. So the second guy is tummy because he didn't go into a mikveh that has 40 sa. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, but says Rabbi Yehuda, im hayu raglov shel rishon nogos b'moyim af asheni tar. That if the first guy's feet were still touching the water, so then that would be okay. And I guess that moisture that is on him is connecting to the water to be able to make it 40 sa. So we see that at least legabe mikvaos tofech amanas la'atpiach could work. But the shaila is, what about in other cases, right? What about when you're washing your hands and you wash half of your hand and there's moisture and now you want to wash the second half of your hand? Does it work or not? So that's what Ilpa is asking. It doesn't seem like we have an answer. It is what he's asking, though. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Fine. So now, where are we? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Hare Amr. They said, Haba rosh of ruba b'mayim shu'uvin. What? Fine. V'tar shnaflu arosh of aruba shlosha lugin mayim shu'uvin tomeh. Do you know what this is talking about? Who can tell me what this is talking about? Who wants to volunteer? Who wants to volunteer? Who wants to tell me what this is talking about? It's talking about, apparently the mikvos back then were shtickle gnarly. Shtickle lo naim so much to go into them. So what you do is, you would plunge, you take the plunge, you'd go into the mikveh, and then you would jump right from the mikveh into a bath. So, but what was happening is, people can get confused. Wait, so what exactly is the purification over here? Is it the putrid pool, or is it the bath that you go in immediately afterwards to actually become clean? So people are getting confused and thinking that it's the mayim she'uvin, it's the bath that really you want. That's the thing that's clearly making you clean. And people were assuming making you pure as well. So the Chacham said, you know what? No more of this. if you go into, right, so let's read that. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Ari Amar, they said Abarosh of Rubo b'mayim shuvin. If somebody puts his head and most of his body in mayim shuvin, he won't be pure. Vitar shenafu arosh of Rubo shlosh lugin mayim shuvin, or a fellow who 3 lugin of mayim shuvin fell on his head and most of his body. Tameh, so he's tameh out of that concern that we had. What if half of it was, he went into the water, half of it was that it fell on him? Take they said, Amar Papa says, Papa Ari Amar, they said, Balkari Chole, Shenosnu Olav Tisha Kabin, Maim Tar. So if you have a Balkari, now we learned to Masechta Brachis that a Balkari needs to go to the mikveh in order to be able to study Torah. Now, what if the guy is sick and he can't go to the mikveh? So if they pour 9 kav of water on him, then he's tahor. What if they do half in tvila and half in nesina? So my teku, they say, ich weiß nicht. Okay, so now, now after that very, very interesting Tumah and Tara discussion, now put back on your Gittin hats. Friends, how's the Gittin hats going? Pretty good, right? You have to use your brain a little bit. Does anybody have a problem? Uh-oh. Oh, no. Uh-oh. It's about to get loud just when I'm going into the complicated part. Uh-oh. Speakerphone. Ooh. Let's see. Okay. All right. Well. Okay. So. Uh-oh. 1 second. All right. This is really complicated stuff. I'm just gonna do my best. Yankee Lazar. I need to just pretend like there isn't a lot of noise right above me, and maybe I just need to talk really loudly and channel my Yankee Lazar and pretend like it's not happening and that it's all in my head and that I just need to focus and power through this next bit of Gemara. I have to talk louder than they do. All right, let's see. Echad omer b'fanei nichtav v'echad omer v'chulei. Friends, so this is going on the Mishnah. Maybe I'll just talk really loudly. And then, so I'm competing. That's what I'm just going to compete with, I'm louder than you. Okay. So now, okay. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be louder. Maybe that's the solution. Whenever there's people outside, I just need to be louder than so I have to be a bigger sunflower than the sunflower people. That's why I have to be the big, no. I can't be the biggest sunflower person because I'm teaching Torah and I'm learning Torah, and the sunflower people prevent Torah from being learned. We learned in Masechta Sota. But all right, I have to. It's a competition. Okay, good. Okay, challenge accepted. I don't know that I can win, but challenge accepted. All right. So we're going back on the Mishnah, and the Mishnah says. So we said in the Mishnah that if one fellow says Bifanai Nichtav, and then the other fellow says Bifanai Nechtam, so then. So it doesn't work, right? So if one guy says b'fanei nichtav, one guy says b'fanei nechtam, it doesn't work because you need one. The thing is, one person says b'fanei nichtav and b'fanei nechtam. You can't have one person that's what you have to do, right? We learned about it the other day. What was it, yesterday? The thing is, one person comes bringing a get and it says b'fanei nichtav and b'fanei nechtam, and that's the thing. There's no playing games, and therefore, if one person says b'fanei nichtav and the other person says b'fanei nechtam, that doesn't work. So now, Amr of Shmuel bar Yehuda, Amr of Yochanan. It says of Shmuel bar Yehuda in the name of Reb Yochanan, Lo shanu ella she'eina get yotzei mitachas yidei shnei. Now, when we say, I have to yell louder. When we say that if one of them says b'fanei nichtav and the other one says b'fanei nechtam, so it does not work. That is ela she'eina get yotzei mitachas yidei shneim. That's only if they're not both sent by the husband, right? Avol, but get yotze mitachas yidei shneim. But if the get was, if they're both the shaliachs of the husband, so then kosher. So then it's no problem. So we see. So Rabbi Yochanan is saying that when we say that if one of them says b'fanei nichtav and the other one says b'fanei nechtam, it doesn't work. That's because they're not both the shaliachs. Only one of them is the shaliach, and therefore you don't have the messenger saying b'fanei nichtav u'b'fanei nechtam. But if they were both the shaliach of the husband, so then the interesting thing is, if they're both the shaliach of the husband, so then you basically have two witnesses. At that point, you don't even need them to say b'fanei nichtav u'b'fanei nechtam anymore, because they can always be mekayim the shtar, just the two of them anyways, right? You don't, right? If that's right, you don't need them. So if one of them, so if you have both of the witnesses, right, both of the people being sent from the husband, so they're both the shaliachs, so in that case, so you don't have neither one of them is saying b'fanei nichtav or b'fanei nechtam, right? One of them saying b'fanei nichtav, one of them saying b'fanei nechtam. That's irrelevant, because the thing is for one person to say both of them, right? And therefore, so the fact of the matter is they're not saying b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam, but it's okay, because since there are two of them, they could be mikayim the shtar anyways, because there's two of them, so therefore it really doesn't matter. So it's only going to be possible if only one of them was the shaliach and the other one wasn't. So alma kasaver, so we see that Shnayim sheviu get mimedina sayom, that if you have two people who are shaliachs, they're bringing a get from medina sayom, ain't tzrichin lom shayomu b'fanenu nichtav b'fanenu nechtam. They don't need to say b'fanenu nichtav u'b'fanenu nechtam, as we see from here. That we're saying that if you have two people bringing a get from Dina Sayam, even if one of them says b'fanei nichtav, one of them says b'fanei nechtam, so they're not actually saying b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam, right? Because the thing is for one person to say both, and here you have you don't have one person saying both. Then we're saying that it's kosher, so we clearly don't need, for if you have two people coming from Medina Sayam, you don't need them to say b'fanei nichtav, b'fanenu nichtav, b'fanenu nechtam. Oh. So it says Abaye, but there's a different girsa that says Rav Asi. So Rav Asi, the reason why I prefer Rav Asi is because we're responding to Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Asi was like a student of Rabbi Yochanan, so I think that it would make sense for Rav Asi to be responding over here. Therefore, I accept this girsa change, Dennis, if you're wondering. Omelei Rav Asi, so Rav Asi says, El me'ato, Seifa dikatone, Shnayim omrim, B'fanenu nichtav, Ve'echad omer, B'fanai nechtam. So if two of them say, B'fanai nichtav, and then one of them says, B'fanai nechtam, pasul. So we say that is pasul. That is pasul. For Rabbi Yehuda, machshir. And Rabbi Yehuda says that it's taka kosher. So we have this machlokas between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda about if two people say b'fanei nichtav, one of them says b'fanei nechtam, is it kosher or not? So pasul Rabbi Yehuda machshir. Taima the ein aget yotze mitachas yidei shneim. So let's say that's also talking about a situation where the machlokas is because they're not all shaliachs, right? There's different ways to understand. You could say mitachas yidei shneim, that like one of the kesiva people is a shaliach, and one of the chasima and the only chasima person is a shaliach. Another option is that all of them have been sent by the husband. I think it's easier to understand that. This just makes it easier than to say one of the kesiva people. So let's just say, that's not talking about, right? So the eina get yotze mitachas yidei shneim. That the machlokas is when they are not all sent by the husband. Only the guy who's saying b'fanei nechtam is the actual shaliach. I'll get yotze mitachas yidei shneim, but if they were all sent by the husband, machshei rabbanon, the rabbis would say that it's kosher in that case, because at the end of the day you don't need to say b'fanei nichtav b'fanei nechtam if you have two witnesses, right, two shaliachs sent by the husband, because they can always do a kiyum shtaris later, and therefore at that point you don't need them to say if they were all sent by the husband. And therefore, in that case, if you have, the Rabbanan would even say, even the Rabbanan would say that if you have two people saying b'fanei nichtav and one person saying b'fanei nechtam, if they were all sent by the husband, so then it wouldn't, then it would be kosher. Right? The machlokas there also is only because they weren't all sent by the husband. Amar lei in, and Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda says yes, that would be correct. V'chi ein get yotze mitachas yidei shneim b'may pligei. Okay, fine. So we're saying that the machlokas there, by when two people say b'fanei nichtav and one says b'fanei nechtam, the chachamim say it is possible. Rabbi Yehuda said it is kosher. What is the machlokas there? Mar savar gazvinan dilma asir lechyufle bekiyum shtaris de alma be'ed echad umar savar lo gazvinan. So there, the question is this. So we're saying that the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the chachamim there is where the only, right, you have two people saying b'fanei nichtav, one person saying, right, b'fanei nechtam, and we're saying that in that case, and we're saying that in that case, only the Eid Chasima, only the person who's saying b'fanei nechtam, only that person was sent by the husband. So therefore, in that case, because only that person was sent by the husband. Okay, I gotta be loud again. Well, I was loud the whole time, but now I need to be loud again. So we're saying that that's where there's a machlokas, because if they were all sent by the husband, so then we said that you don't need to say b'fanei nechtam at all. So it's talking about where only the guy who was saying b'fanei nechtam was sent by the husband. And so why do the Chachamim say it's possible? Because the reason why you have to say b'fanei nechtam, meaning, if we're saying it's about kiyum shtaris, right? So technically speaking, we trust the shaliach to say b'fanei nechtam, right? To be mekayim the shtar, right? He says b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam. He's basically being mekayim the shtar, and we treat him as if he's like two, right? We basically trust him. So technically speaking, if he only says b'fanei nechtam, theoretically it should work, right? But we say that the reason why he also says b'fanei nichtav is so that you don't confuse it with other kiyum shtaris, to think that you can do kiyum shtaris with only one witness. So now let's start with Rabbi Yehuda, who says it's kosher. So Rabbi Yehuda says it's fine because you have the shaliach who's saying b'fanei nechtam, and in terms of being confusing it with other shtaris, Rabbi Yehuda says he's not concerned with that, because since you have two witnesses who are saying b'fanei nichtav, and right, they're saying b'fanei nichtav, so that's not a regular kiyum shtaris thing, right? Normally by kiyum shtaris, you don't have anybody saying b'fanei nichtav. It's a Gittin thing, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda says, look, if you have the shaliach who's saying b'fanei nechtam, and then you have two other witnesses who are saying b'fanei nichtav, so then that is fine. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we're not going to be concerned about other kiyum shtaris. Whereas the Rabbanan say that no, even in that case, if the shaliach is only able to say b'fanei nechtam, then we're still concerned about confusing it with other situations of shtaris. Right, so again, so the rabbis savar kavinon dilma asya le'echlufe b'kiyum shtaris da'ama. Maybe you're going to make a mistake and confuse it with other kiyum shtaris, beid echad, with one aid, umay savar lo gazvinon, the other, whereas Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned. Lishna achrina. So now we have a different way of understanding the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis, right? So the first way was to say that the machlokas is only when so going back to the original case that we're talking about, which is right, echad amar b'fanei nichtav, ve'echad amar b'fanei nechtam. One of them said b'fanei nichtav, the other one said b'fanei nechtam. So we had just said that is only when they were not both sent by the husband, right? So so only one of them is saying b'fanei nechtam, but only one of them is saying before, right, only if they weren't both sent by the husband, right? So you don't have anybody saying b'fanei nechtam. So then we said the Chacham say it's possible, and Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher. But if both of them were sent by the husband, so then everyone would say it's kosher. Is there another phone call going on? Yeah, okay, I gotta be loud again. Okay, so Lishna Achrino, so Amrila, so they said, Amr Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Amr Rav Yochanan, so they say it in this way, Afilu get Yotze mitachas Yidei Shneim, that even if the get is coming from both of them, right, that they were both sent by the husband, still, Pasul, still the Chachamim would, no, not the Chacham, yeah, not the, no, everyone would, but the Mishnah says that in that case it is Pasul. So Alma Kasavar Shnaim she'eviu get mimedinas hayom tzrichen sheyomu b'fanenu nichtav u'b'fanenu nechtav. So we see that from the fact that the Mishnah says that even if both of them were sent by the shaliach, but if both of them were sent by the husband, if one of them says b'fanei nichtav and the other one says b'fanei nechtav, so we say that it's a problem. So that means that in a situation where you have two shaliachs, both of them are sent by the husband, so they still need to say B'fanai nichtav u'b'fanai nechtam. Omar lei, again, Rav Asi. So Rav Asi says, Ela mi'ato, Seifa de katoni, when it says later on in the Mishnah, Shnayim omrim b'fanenu nichtav v'echad omer b'fanai nechtam, that two of them say b'fanai nichtav, and one of them says b'fanai nechtam, so let's say as well, right? So Pasul, the Chacham say it's Pasul, Rabbi Yehuda says it's machshir, he says it's kosher, afilu get, yotze mitachas yidei shneim, Pasle Rabbanon. So let's say the same thing there as well. That's even if they were all sent by the husband, still the rabbis would say that it is a problem, right? That it's a problem. That even though they're all sent by the husband, right? And and so we had said it earlier in the first way to understand it, that if they're all sent by the husband, so then you don't need to say b'fanei nechtam anymore. You can always do a kiyum shtaris later. But okay, I gotta be loud again. So mitachas shneim pasle rabbanon. So we're saying that even if they were all sent by the husband, still it is pasul. The rabbis say. So Amar lei in. So Rav I keep on forgetting. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda says yes, that is correct. But my kamiflige. So what's the machlokas? Why did the rabbi say that when they're all sent by the husband, even though they could always do a kiyum shtaris whenever they want, still it's pasul? So Marsav Lefisha ain't Bikiyin Lishma. Well, because even though they can do a Kiyum Shtaris, what about Lishma? What about Lishma? You still have to be concerned about Lishma. Marsavar Lefisha ain't Eidim Mitsuyin Lekaimo. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's about Lefisha ain't Eidim Mitsuyin Lekaimo. And in this case, if they're all sent by the husband, so then they can be Mekayim the Shtar later, and it's no problem. So therefore it's kosher according to Rabbi Yehuda. Leimet Rabbi v'Rava Tanoi. So let's say that the machlokas between Rabbi and Rava is a machlokas tanoim, right? That Rabbi who says I need the Shema is like the Chachamim, who say that it's possible because you still need the Shema, and Rava holds like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that it's kosher because you can always be mekayim it later. Rav Matayitz Klish Nakamas, we say no. Rav is just going to say that it's like the first explanation, that the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim is when is only when they weren't all sent. But if they were all sent, well then you could be Mekayim the Shtar, and everyone would agree that there's no problem, because you don't have to worry about Lishma, it's only about Kiyum Shtaris. The Rabba Amar, and Rabba of course is going to say, like the second way of understanding, that no, it's even when they were all sent by the husband, because you still have to be concerned about Lishma. So Amalach, and he's going to say to you, Dichule Alma Ba'inan Lishma, that actually not just the rabbis but also Rabbi Yehuda requires Lishma. So if he requires Lishma, so then how come Rabbi Yehuda is saying that it's kosher even though nobody's saying B'fanei Nichtam B'fanei Nechtam? And here what are we talking about? La'achar shelamdu. It's talking about after the people in Chutz La'aretz learned about Lishma, and therefore you don't actually need to be concerned about Lishma anymore. V'gzeira shema yachzar hadavar l'kulkulu kamiflagei. And the machlokas between the Rabbanon and Rabbi Yehuda is, do we have to say that even though the people learned about Lishma, you still have to say B'fanei Nichtam B'fanei Nechtam, because maybe things might revert to how they used to be, and people will forget about Lishma. So therefore, out of concern about that, we still say B'fanei Nichtam B'fanei Nechtam to Marsavar Gazrinon u'Marsavar Lo Gazrinon. That the rabbis say that we still have to be concerned, and therefore it's possible even if they were all sent by the husband. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says no, we aren't gozer, and if nowadays Lishma is not a concern anymore, then the only concern is Kiyum Shtaris, in which case if they were all sent by the husband, so then it is kosher, you don't have to worry about it. V'liflug nami Rabbi Yehuda b'Reisha. So if this is the case, then Rabbi Yehuda should say the same thing also by the Reisha, right? Now he shouldn't just argue by when two say b'fanei nichtav and one says b'fanei nechtam, but even if one of them, right, even in the situation where if you have two witnesses sent by the husband, so one of them says b'fanei nichtav and the other one says b'fanei nechtam, so Rabbi Yehuda should say that it's kosher, that's also kosher. Right, because they can always do a kiyum shtaris later, and there's not a concern about the shema. So ha'itmar Allah, so Take Amar Ula says Ula chalukai Rabbi Yehuda af barishona. That Rabbi Yehuda actually did argue also on echad omer b'fanei nichtav ve'echad omer b'fanei nechtam. He would also say that is kosher. Masiv Rabbi Oshaya leUla. So Oshaya asks a kasha on Ula. Rabbi Yehuda machshir bazo v'lo ba'acheres. That when Rabbi Yehuda says that meaning the Mishnah says that Rabbi Yehuda was machshir when two of them said b'fanei nichtav and one of them said b'fanei nechtam, implying that this is where he says it's kosher, but not in a different scenario. My lav, what's the scenario where he would not say it's kosher? Limut my lav limute echad omer b'fanei nichtav ve'echad omer b'fanei nechtam. Wouldn't it be to the exclusion of where one of them says b'fanei nichtav and the other one says b'fanei nechtam, that he would say that there it's possible? Lo limute b'fanei nichtam. Nechtam avalo b'fanei nichtav. No, it's coming to exclude the case where one of them says b'fanei, where you have a shaliach to deliver again. He says b'fanei nechtam, but I can't say anything about the ksiva. Right? Lo b'fanei nichtav. Because I may have thought that since Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned that they're going to forget about the Shema once again in Chutz La'aretz, so maybe also Dilma Asi Lechlufe B'Kiyum Shtar is Da'ama Be'erechot Nami Lo Gazar. So maybe Rabbi Yehuda, who seems to be a little bit more lenient, maybe is also not concerned that in this case, if he says b'fanei nechtam but not b'fanei nichtav, maybe you say that that's also kosher, and we're not concerned that he's gonna that we're gonna confuse it with other cases of kiyum shtaris. Kamash malan. So no, kamash malan. That in that case, Rabbi Yehuda would taka say that it is possible, and we are concerned about kiyum shtaris in general. Itmar nami. It was stated in support of the second way of understanding the machlokas, that it's even when everybody was sent by their husband. Rabbi Yehuda, Shnaim sheviu get Medina Sayam, Banu Lemachlokas, Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanan. That if you have two people bring a get from Medina Sayam, that they're both shaliachs, we have this machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim over here. Fine. Rabbi Bar Chana Cholash, Rabbi Bar Chana got sick. Ulagabe Rav Yehuda, it says V'Rabba, but I think V'Rabbanan makes more sense. Meaning there's a girsa change. The Shayule Bey. So Rav Yehuda came with some rabbis to visit Rabbi Bar Chana. Baumine, they asked Rabbi Bar Chana, Shnaim sheviu get from Medina Sayam, if you have two shaliachs, messengers who bring a get from Medina Sayam, tzrichin shiyamu b'fanenu nechtam b'fanenu nechtam, or ain't tzrichin? Do they need to say b'fanenu nechtam or not? Amar loim ein tzrichin. He said that they don't need to say b'fanei nichtav u'b'fanei nechtam. Ma'ilu yomer b'fanenu gersha v'lo me'emne. If they would testify that she got divorced in front of us, they would be believed. I.e., two witnesses are believed. So here also they would be believed even if they don't say b'fanei nichtav u'b'fanei nechtam. Adhachi asa ahu chever. When they were talking, a certain chever man came. It's like a Persian nudnik. Shakal l'shraga mikamayu, and took the light away from them. The candle from them. Omar, and Rabbi Bar Chana says, Rachmana, Eibishter, or Betulach, or Betulach Devar Esav. I'd rather either be with you in Yerushalayim, in the Beis Hamikdash, or with the Bnei Esav. But now with the Bnei Yishmael over here in Bavel, it's Shver. L'meimer Diramoi Malumi precise. Does that imply that the Romans were better than the Persians? What does the pasuk mean? Elokim haven darka v'yada es mekoma. That the Eibishter understood their ways and knows their place. Yodei HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Yisrael. That the Eibishter knows about the Yidden. She'en yichodin lekabel gzeres romim. That they would be unable to accept the Romans. Amad ve'igla osam lebavel. So he exiled the Yidden to Bavel instead of to the Romans. But so it implies that the Babylonians are better than the Romans. Why is Rabbi Bar Chana saying better we should be with the Romans? So it depends. Once the Persians came, things went downhill in Bavel, and then at that point it would have been better to be with the Romans. Friends, that was Daf Tazayin of Masechet Gittin. Hope you possibly enjoyed. Peace.